When I was in high school, I didn't know what I was going to do, whether I was going to go to college or not, although my father made it very clear to me that I was to go to college. But it wasn't the way it is nowadays, where people tell their kids to make up their minds when they're 8 years old about where to go and what to become. I remember my dad just saying, look, you want to go to college, it's good for you. And I hurt my knee during the football season at Durfee High School. It is joked back home among some of my old friends that I fell off the bench, but that's not quite correct, although I spent an awful lot of time on the bench. And I couldn't play basketball, so instead I traveled with the broadcast team and kept score for them and provided other statistical information to them. And one day I remember it very clearly, we were taking a long ride to Holyoke, Massachusetts for a game. And I was sitting in back of the car, and Jim Arkeson, the play-by-play guy, was driving, and he said, hey, Mort, where are you, Mort? You know, the R in Massachusetts, it's absent. Mort, what are you going to do next year? And he said to the guy who was sitting next to him in the front seat, Mort's a senior. And I said, well, I don't know, Jim. I think I'm going to go to school. And the other guy said, yeah, what are you going to study? And I said, I don't know. My father has suggested perhaps business administration would be a good thing, but to tell you the truth, I don't know what the hell business administration is. Well, they laughed, and the drivers said, do you know anything about Emerson College? And I said, it's a girls' school? And he said, no, it used to be, but they have a very good broadcasting department there, and you might want to look into it. So that night, when I got home, my father said, hey, how'd the game go? And I told him, and he said, how's Jim? He knew our neighbor, the play-by-play guy. Excuse me. And he said, what's up with him? And I said, oh, well, Jim told me about this school called Emerson College, a college. And Emerson College. And he said, oh, what about it? And he said, well, he thinks it might be good for me. And my father said, well, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, why don't you give them a call? And I did. And I went up to visit Emerson College, and we figured that we didn't have any money, but we figured we could afford it. And so I got to Emerson College. I minored in broadcasting. It was a well-known broadcasting and theater school. I majored in English, and I began to spend weekends looking for jobs in the Boston metropolitan area. And for a while I would take a late afternoon train to Providence, Rhode Island to work till 1 o'clock in the morning, take what they called the milk train back to Boston, and often sleep through my morning classes. But long story, but you know, it was serendipity. I just fell in love with the idea of becoming a news guy, and I'm still in love with the idea of being a news guy.